Good morning, students. As we were continuing with the transactional motive, let us continue with that. The transaction motive, we were learning that the principal motive for holding money is to carry out the transaction. So that type of money transaction, when it is done, it is known as transaction motive. If you receive your income weekly and pay your bills on the first day of every week, you need not hold any cash balance throughout the rest of the week. Yes, definitely. If it has the income come and we will start doing the payment of all the bills, then definitely for the rest of the month, we will not be having any enough cash to continue our life. So it is like that we will be getting, as we are getting that, we will be some amount we will be paying and some amount in the next week we will balance in such a way. It is known as transaction motive. Next motive of that particular banking system is the speculative motive. After that demand and supply for money transaction motive, the second motive is speculative motive. An individual may hold her wealth in the form of landed property, bullion, bonds, money, etc. For simplicity, let us club all forms of assets other than money together into a single category called the bonds. Typically, bonds are papers bearing the promise of a future stream of monetary returns over a certain period of time. These papers are issued by governments or firms or borrowing money from the public, and they are tradable in the market. Consider the following two-period bond. A firm wishes to raise a loan of rupees 100 from the public. It issues a bond that assures rupees 10 at the end of the first year and rupees 10 plus the principal of rupees 100 at the end of the second year. Such a bond is said to have a face value of rupees 100, a maturity period of 2 years, and a coupon rate of 10%. Assume that the rate of interest prevailing in your saving bank account is equal to 5%. Naturally, you would like to compare the earning from this bond with the interest earning of your saving. Yes, two opportunities you are getting. One is your saving account, in that you will be getting a rate of interest of 5%, and the next is a bond in which you are getting 10%. Let us compare its value, which is more profitable for us. Naturally, you would like to compare the earning from this bond with the interest earning of your saving bank account. The exact question that you would ask is as follows. How much money, if kept in my savings bank account, will generate rupees 10 at the end of 1 year? Let the amount be x. Therefore, in other words, x is x into 1 upon 1 plus 5 upon 100, that is 1 plus 5%. The answer will be, if we are it is assumed that 10 rupees we are earning. Okay, so the equation it has been formed is x is the amount what we will be getting. If we have to take, it's 5%, so 5% how we will be taking, x into 1 plus 5 upon 100, and the amount we are assumed that it must come 10. Now the equation will be balanced. This amount rupees x is called the present value of rupees 10 discounted at the market rate of interest. Similarly, let y be the amount of money which, if kept in the saving bank account, will generate rupees 110 at the end of 2 years. Thus, the present value of stream of returns from the bond should be equals to. Now, again another equation for savings account. The first was with the bonds. So this equals to PV, that is the present value, equals to x plus y, that is the savings plus the savings and the bonds, equals to 10 upon 1 plus 5 by 100 plus 10 plus 5 by 100. So this is the equation we will be getting there. Calculation reveals that it is 109.29. When we will calculate this equation, we will get the answer 109.29 approx. It means that if you have put rupees 109.29 in your savings bank account, it will fetch the same return as the bond. But the seller of the bond is offering the same at a face value of rupees 100. Clearly, the bond is more attractive than the saving bank account, and people will rush to get hold of the bond. Competitive bidding will raise the price of the bond above its face value till price of the bond is equal to its present value. Its price rises above the PV, the bond becomes less attractive compared to the savings bank account, and people would like to get rid of it. The bond will be in excess supply, and there will be downward pressure on the bond price, which will bring it back to the PV. It is clear that under competitive asset market conditions, the price of a bond must always be equal to its present value in equilibrium. Now consider an increase in the market rate of interest from 5% to 6%. The present value, hence the price of the same bond will become as it is. As the first equation we had solved, the same way for the bond, the second equation will be like this: PV equals to x plus y equals to 10 upon 1 plus 6. Instead of 5, it will be 1 plus 6% plus 10 plus 100, that is the value which amount which we had assumed. 10 plus 100 as our bond amount plus 100 upon 1 plus same 6% up whole square. The answer we will get 107.33. It follows that the price of a bond is inversely related to the market rate of interest. Different people have different expectation regarding the future movements in the market rate of interest based on their private information regarding the economy. If you think that the market rate of interest should eventually settle down to 8% per annum, then you may consider the current rate of 5% too low to be sustainable over time. You expect interest rates to rise and consequently bond prices to fall. If you are a bond holder, to decrease in bond price means a loss to you, similar to a loss you would suffer if the value of a property held by you suddenly depreciates in the market. Definitely, bond you had purchased and the next day you are finding the bond value is coming down. Definitely you will not, you don't want such a type of thing to be happen, because it will reduce the value of your wealth or the property. So that only the holder of the bond never wants the price of the bond to go down. When the interest rate is very high, everyone expects it to fall in future and hence anticipates capital gains from bond holding. Hence people convert their money into bonds. The speculative demand for money is low. When the interest rate comes down, more and more people expect it to rise in the future and anticipate capital loss. Thus, they convert their bonds into money, giving rise to a high speculative demand for money. Hence, speculative demand for money is inversely related to the rate of interest. Assuming a simple form, the speculative demand for money can be written as money ds equals to R maximum value minus rate of interest divided by R minus R minimum interest, where R is the market rate of interest and R max and R min are the upper and lower limit of R value, that is the rate of interest. Both positive constants. It is evident from the above equation that as R decreases, as the R decreases, we are seeing here the R is decreasing, this thing decreasing from R maximum to R minimum. The value of MDS increases from 0 to infinity. Here it is 0 and here it is increasing to infinity. Means it is not, we cannot guess how much it will be going. As mentioned earlier, the interest rate can be thought of as opportunity cost or price of holding money balance. If supply of money in the economy increases and people purchases bonds, with this extra money, demand for bonds will go up. Definitely when the income increases, people want to invest, they will be investing. If the bond is attractive, they will invest in the bond. And so there it will be more attraction over the bond prices will rise and rate of interest will decline. Definitely where the investment is more of the people, there the price of the things also increases, and where the investment is low, it definitely the prices will go down. In other words, with an increased supply of money in the economy, the price you have to pay for holding money balance, which the rate of interest should come down. However, if the market rate of interest is already low enough so that everybody expects it to rise in future, causing capital losses, nobody will wish to hold the bonds. Everyone in the economy will hold their wealth in the money balance, and if additional money is injected within the economy, it will be used up to satiate people's craving for money balances without increasing the demand for bonds and without further lowering the rate of interest below the floor, that is the R minimum. Such a situation is called a liquidity trap. So what is liquidity trap? Such a situation where people's craving for money balances without increasing the demand for bonds and without further lowering the rate of interest below the floor R minimum, it is a situation known as liquidity trap. The speculative money demand function is infinitely elastic here. Yes, it will elasticity means here it will be stopped with the infinity. It will not move on. In figure 3.1, the speculative demand for money is plotted on the horizontal axis and the rate of interest on the vertical axis. That is here, horizontal axis rate and the vertical axis. The vertical axis is the rate of interest. We can see when R equals to R maximum, speculative demand for money is 0. The rate of interest is so high that everyone expects it to fall in future and hence ensure about a future capital gain. Thus, everyone has converted the speculative money balance into bonds. When R equals to R minimum, the economy is in the liquidity trap. Everyone is sure of a future rise in interest rate and a fall in bond prices. Everyone puts whatever wealth they are acquired in the form of money, and the speculative demand for money is infinite. So we can see the relation R maximum and R minimum. What happens when our rate of interest is maximum and when the rate of interest is minimum. Let us have a once again. When R equals to R maximum, speculative demand for money is 0. The rate of interest is so high that everyone expects it to fall in future and hence it's sure about a future capital gain. Thus, everyone has converted the in this situation when R equals to R maximum, everyone will convert the speculative money balance into bonds. It means they will do investment in bonds when they want future rate of interest to fall down, so that in future they will be earning from the bonds. Now the condition comes R equals to R minimum. In this situation, what the people think? R equals to R minimum, the economy is in liquidity trap. Everyone is sure of a rise in interest rate and fall in bond prices. Everyone puts whatever wealth they acquire in the form of money. It means they will invest in the save in the bank, and they want the rate of interest to go up so that they will be earning future in the form of rate of interest. And the speculative demand for money is infinite. So this was the relation between R equals to R maximum and R equals to R minimum. Total demand for money in an economy is therefore composed of transaction demand and speculative demand. The former is directly proportional to real GDP and price level, whereas the latter is inversely related to the market rate of interest. The aggregate money demand in an economy can be summarized by the following equations. MD equals to MDT plus MDS, or MD, market demand. MD is market demand. Market demand, or you can say money demand. Money demand equals to present, that is the present bond value plus R maximum rate of interest upon R into R minimum. The supply of money various measures now look at these equations. What we are learning, we will be solving some of the practical questions, though from money and banking chapter no practical questions are there. Students, once again I will be helping you by telling this, that in macroeconomics very less numericals are there as compared to microeconomics, which we learnt in the last year. Here what is important is a graph. The graph you have to explain and some of the equation you have to by heart, but practical questions are very less as compared to the microeconomics. Let us see that what we will be going to learn. The supply of money various measures. In a modern economy, money consists mainly of currency notes and coins issued by the monetary authority of the country. In India, currency notes are issued by the Reserve Bank of India, which is the monetary authority in India. However, coins are issued by the government of India. Apart from currency notes and coins, the balance in savings or current account deposit held by the public in commercial bank is also considered money. Since checks are drawn on these accounts are used to settle transactions. Such deposits are called demand deposit. We have already learned that whatever deposit we are doing in the bank, it is called as demand deposits, as they are payable by the bank or demand from the account holder. That's why the name is given as demand deposit. Other deposits, example fixed deposit, have a fixed period to maturity and are referred to as time deposits. Though a 100 rupee note can be used to obtain commodities worth rupees 100 from a shop, the value of the paper itself is negligible, certainly less than rupees 100. Similarly, the value of the metal in a 5 rupee coin is probably not worth rupees 5. Definitely that metal coin on which 5 rupees is printed, it is not worthing rupees 5. But its value become 5 because on that RBI had printed 5. Why then do people accept such notes and coins in exchange of goods which are apparently more valuable than this? I think the point is understandable by you. A note is made of paper. That paper value is not 1000 rupees, but still we compare when it is printed on that paper 1000. We compare that paper value as 1000 with the goods which is actually worth of rupees 1000. The value of the currency notes and coins is derived from the guarantee provided by the issuing authority of these items. Every currency note bears on its face a promise from the governor of RBI that if someone produces the note to RBI or any other commercial bank, RBI will be responsible for giving the person purchasing power equal to the value printed on the note. The same is also true of coins. Currency notes and coins are therefore called fiat money. They do not have intrinsic value like a gold or silver coin. They are also called legal tenders, as they cannot be refused by any citizen of the country for settlement of any kind of transaction. Intrinsic value, what the value is what the value has been inscribed on that is the actual value worth of that particular paper or the coin. So there cannot be refused by any citizen of the country. Yes, definitely a coin is of a simple metal, but no one can say it is simple metal. Why we will considering it as 5? Because it is given, authority is given by the RBI that it is 5 rupees coin. Checks drawn on savings or current account, however, can be refused by anyone as a mode of payment. Hence, demand deposits are not legal tenders. So that was the chapter money and banking. Demonetization has been removed from this session, from this year, from the topic. So next chapter we will be going income. Thank you.